This is the first public engagement meeting for our tree ordinance rewrite project. And so we just kind of wanted to go over a quick few things about the format of the meeting today. We'll go through a quick introduction of the, go over the purpose of the project, share with you all the project website if you haven't seen that yet, and then discuss next steps for the project, and then open it up to just general public comments from the public. So last year, the city, with the hiring of Jeff Dadisman, who was our tree canopy preservation program manager, created a separate tree canopy preservation division within the Department of Community Development. The department also has a new city arborist, India Woodson, and both of them are here on the meeting today and will be able to provide some more insight into the project as a whole. I'll run through the purpose of the project, but then I'll turn it over to Jeff and India just to kind of give some of their initial feedback about what they're looking to achieve as a part of the project. Generally, the department is looking to strike a balance between the city's tree preservation goals and the needs of the development community. We want to utilize this project to continue some of the efforts that the city has already undertaken related to tree canopy preservation. And we also want to foster management of the city's tree nursery and other programming that we have going on. Let's see. So Jeff, if you wanted to jump in.
Can anybody hear me? It looks like I'm frozen.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
We could hear him.
Yeah, I think it cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's kind of
can. Mm-hmm.
My position was created with, the main goal being to improve tree preservation in Brookhaven. So I came on board in August, and then India Woodson came on board, I believe, in November to fill an existing position, which is the city arborist position. So we're the team. We're the two-person team within the tree canopy preservation division who are charged with the task of making these improvements, largely starting with the rewrite of the ordinance. So that's why we're here today, is just to collect public input from residents of Brookhaven and any other interested stakeholders to help inform this process.
Oh, go ahead, India.
Well, I came in here into the Brookhaven at the end of November, beginning of December, and we're already we went into full stride trying to enforce the ordinance that exists. I'm looking forward to helping to grow the canopy here in the city of Brookhaven, but it's a process. Hopefully our ordinance will evolve to fit our needs.
Thank you both. And so I'll go on to the next slide. The project website, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I want to get one thing. the first bullet point, I didn't have a chance last night to kind of maybe add something to that language. What we're really trying to do, we're trying to approach trees on existing lots in Brookhaven more like what they actually are. They're part of the urban infrastructure. There are, I believe, 11 scientifically and economically proven benefits of having healthy trees in the urban landscape. And our approach isn't just about sentiment. It's not just about a core group of residents of Brookhaven who have arguably, a higher level of interest and appreciation for trees, but it's about acknowledging and applying these proven, scientifically proven benefits of having a certain density of healthy trees within the urban landscape.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff, for that additional information. So I just wanted to walk the public through the website. If you all haven't been there yet, there's an opportunity for you to sign up to be on the listserv for the project. There's an ideas wall, a virtual forum, a community survey that will be open until I believe March 1st is what we have on the schedule. There's an interactive map and the project timeline and key dates are also available on the website. Specific to the key dates, again, like I said, today is the first set of public engagement meetings. And then we'll move through the rest of the process with a second round of public engagement meetings in February. And then anticipate that we'll have an ordinance drafted in April for presentation to the public, and then move on to Planning Commission and City Council, and hope to have the project wrapped up by the summer. And so I will stop sharing my screen now. If there's anyone that would like to speak or has questions or has initial comments on the direction that we should be going with this project, if you'll just raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll turn on the system so you can speak.
You got Ken would like to speak.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. How are we doing today?
Good.
I'm just going to go ahead and, since no one else seems like they're raising their hands, I'm going to go ahead and get to the point. So first of all, thank you guys for working on this. I have been extremely involved with the city of Atlanta. I'm the president of the Greater Atlanta Home Builders Association, working with Tim Keene, Matt Westmoreland. Also, there's a group called the City in the Forest that is, as you well know, that the city of Atlanta is now trying to work on their new tree ordinance as well. And one of our big topics on that is which is not really too valid for city of Brookhaven, which is affordability, right? That we're now increasing impact fees in the city of Brookhaven. Lot costs are more expensive, houses are more expensive, labor shortage, you name it, it's getting up there. And now we're focusing more emphasis on old trees that are going to cost even more, whether it's recompense, whether it's replanting, or whether it's measures used to try to save trees. There's a fine line between builders' rights and property owners' rights. Property owners' rights, and what they can and cannot do on their property. The question really is does the tree own the lot, or does the property owner own the lot? And so those are really things that I think need to be considered. So we're pushing for the city of Atlanta because obviously not Buckhead is going to have that much of an impact. Those homeowners and those citizens moving into Buckhead really don't care if they got to spend $10,000 to cut down a tree. They're going to do it anyway. It's really a South Atlanta and those metro areas that would be greatly impacted. So we've suggested to the city of Atlanta that they need to do an economic impact study on the tree ordinance and what it will bring to the citizens and also the development community within Brookhaven. How relevant that is, because everything's pretty much over $1 million in Brookhaven, I don't know. The other thing is too is the city council in Brookhaven right now is trying to build and design for the future of Brookhaven. That has been their kind of mantra ever since Brookhaven has been formed. They're constantly putting things in place to build Brookhaven up, create downtown districts, nightlife districts, Buford Highway corridor, all these different things. Sidewalks, good God, let's talk about sidewalks. So they're trying to do everything that they can to design Brookhaven and understanding that this is not Brookhaven 5 years, they're doing this for Brookhaven 50 years. Well, if we sit there and continue to harp on old growth trees that in 50 years will not be here, that is basically counterintuitive to what the city council and what the city of Brookhaven is trying to do. So our suggestion is both from the development community and then also interacting with the Greater Atlanta Homebuilders Association is that there needs to be more emphasis on planting trees instead of saving old trees. The reality is these homeowners moving into here don't want them, right? They want the pool, they want the big backyard, and they want what they want, and they don't want the trees. Some of them do, some of them don't. So I think that we're spending a lot of money. This is very political as well. We brought in Jeff, we brought in India. I think those two are great, right? I've worked with Jeff for a little bit. India, I've worked with her in DeKalb County. I think that there needs to be some sort of implementation or plan put in place. But I do think that this is the time that both staff, council, commission really needs to take a deep look into this and do this responsibly. And you're never going to have a winning side. That's not the point of this. The point is what's better for Brookhaven 50 years from now, not what's better for Brookhaven now. And so there needs to be an emphasis, not just on paying into recompense. The city of Atlanta has over $19 million in their tree recompense fund. They cannot touch that, right? So you can't use that funds for anything else than plantings. But that recompense fund has been in place for 19 years. So the city of Atlanta has failed to use that money to plant trees that the builders are paying into. And so if they had actually done all along and planted those trees that the builders had paid into, they'd have over 10,000 new trees planted in a 10-year span that would be 5 to 10 inch trees right now. So I get that we're looking at, there's a few crazies out there and they're wanting to kind of save these trees. And there are some certain trees that need to be saved, but every one of my homeowners is concerned for their safety. I'm concerned for my safety when there's a giant tree that is going to be impacted. You cannot design the house around the tree. The homeowners are not going to want that, and that's going to be a bigger problem down the line. So the reality is that we need to kind of try to save the trees, but not mandate that it can't be removed. And if it maybe make the penalty a little bit larger for those trees that are being removed, but there still needs to be the option. If they want it removed, it's on their property, then they can remove it. And if they want to remove it and then pay $10,000 in recompense and plant 20 other trees, that's how I think it needs to be looked at, because then at least you're incentivizing developers and homeowners and citizens to plant more trees, which will ensure the future canopy growth for that. Really, the last thing that I got is this. I know that the original study, we've done a new study, I guess it was done in May. The original study specifically stated in that the analysis or the tree study that it was done aerial, and looking at canopy and that there was inconsistencies and there was actually errors in their calculations, plus or minus like 5 or so percent. So if you look at this new one, which I got to be honest, I haven't completely read through it yet, But I'm wondering how big of a difference that is from that study that was done, I think it was 2014. That how much difference has that been? Because the other thing is too is consistency. When Kay Ivanovich was in, we had to save every tree in Brookhaven, right? We had to put chain link fence around it. We had to put hay bales. We had to put, all kinds of injections and steroids to these trees. You know how many of those trees that I spent thousands of dollars within like the 4-year span that Kay was in here that are still standing? Zero, right? We told our homeowners, hey, the city's not going to allow you to remove these. You're not going to be able to do anything. We built the house. They moved in 2 years later, they're cutting them down. That's just how it is. So we can be smart about it, but we need to be realistic about it. And so I think that doing this this new ordinance is probably needed, right? We don't want to clear cut everything, but we can't really do that in Brookhaven already anyway with the current ordinance. But there needs to be an emphasis on replantings and incentivize builders and homeowners to replant when they cut down and not penalize them for trying to basically build something or do something on their property that they want to. The other thing is too, is I do think that an economic impact study is vital, because the costs just continue to go up. And now all we're doing is just adding even more cost to the cost to live in the city of Brookhaven. And whether or not that's what the city council wants, I don't think the average citizen looking or considering to move into Brookhaven or within Brookhaven really enjoys having to pay $50,000 on their property before they're able to even do anything with it. So end rant. Nobody raised their hand first. I went. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ken. Let's see.
You want to ask your question?
Did you say Ken ask a question?
Yeah. So, I appreciate you. My question is, do you have...
Hey, Jeff, your connection is really bad. And so
Do you want to try to call it? Use one of the call-in numbers, Jeff, that was, and then we can hear you and you can watch. And we can we can probably move on to Mr. Rosen and then come back to Jeff's question.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Great. I would like us to avoid dichotomies. One dichotomy that was just discussed is saving trees now versus planning for 2040 or 2060 or 2080. That's a false dichotomy. What we need to do is to keep bearing in mind that trees wear out, they age, they go away. What we need to do is try to keep Brookhaven sufficiently forested now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. That does mean, as was just said, we need to look at planting as well as preservation, but it's not one versus the other. I just heard from the last speaker that homeowners don't want trees. My understanding is, first of all, that developers are responsible for a number of the loss of a number of the trees, and that developers are often fairly easy to work with. I've heard this from two people, including Jeff, if I may quote you, Jeff, that developers often can be worked with in order to preserve a tree when they didn't initially plan to do it or want to do it or see a way to do it. So it's not a question of what options are on the table versus off the table. We do what we can. When we can preserve a tree, we try to. When we can't, we put in some penalties. The last thing I want to say is that all trees are not the same. In particular, the trees that line the streets, the trees that grow over the streets, those are important in a different way from the trees in somebody's backyard. I would have trouble arguing with a person who wants to take out a tree in the backyard because they really want a swimming pool. But if a person wants to take out a specimen tree that overhangs the street and provides shade to everybody walking along that street, then I would be upset. So I think that it's extremely important to have one set of rules for trees that are entirely in one's yard and another set of rules for trees that line the streets. As far as I know, no ordinance has addressed this difference, but I think it's crucial for the livability of Brookhaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. And Drew, yeah, there you go.
Hey guys, I would just like to say, so we've started working with Jeff, and I think have had a lot of constructive conversations with him. I know that our company has permitted a number of homes recently, and we went to great lengths and coordinated with him on, flipping houses from garage left to garage right, et cetera, to save some nice street trees. And one, I would like to see some sort of credit applied to, smart redevelopment. The current code doesn't really, you have a 150% penalty on removing a specimen, but no credit for saving one. And I know that people don't want to give, developers credits, and it should all just be, max out the penalties. But, the reality is you create good incentives to, save trees that can be saved, and you will get those types of results. Two, I just want, I want the focus to be on smart things that we can do to really save the canopy, not burying developers in meaningless paperwork that doesn't help anybody. I don't think that for every home that's built, an arborist should have to do a lengthy health and risk assessment on a bunch of trees that nobody's proposing to remove. That there's some new interpretations that apparently are coming through that amount to just a ton of paperwork that don't do anything to save the canopy or promote smart redevelopment. So I just want the focus to be on what we can actually do to save and promote healthy trees, and not on just creating a huge bureaucracy and making it impossible to do business. And then three, I was speaking to my arborist this morning on this, and the specimen definitions are all about how big the trees are, but the reality is that, and to Ken's point, thinking about 50 years from now, often the better trees that should be specimens might be 18 inches, 20 inches, the ones that have a greater chance of surviving long term, not necessarily the biggest ones that tend to not survive. And so I think some contemplation, some analysis on that would go a long way. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Drew. Okay. Jeff, did you want to loop back to your follow-up question for Ken?
Yeah. So, sorry about my audio issues. Hopefully everybody can hear me better now. So one thing I'll say, I think Drew makes a really good point. There is no emphasis on the middle-aged trees right now in the code, and I completely agree that there should be. The middle-aged trees, if they're well protected during construction, they do project to have longer lifespans. So I think navigating that with the new ordinance would be something we absolutely need to consider. Ken, I was going to ask you, Indy and I've been working hard and talking with other people with community development, and of course people from the building community about incentivizing some improved tree preservation. I completely agree also that that's something that needs to be explored. So when you say incentivize, a higher level of replanting requirements, do you have any like discrete ideas for how that could be structured in a code and implemented?
Yeah. So, I think that you can do it by inch, based on specimen tree. Like for instance, my personal house, the lot had 0 trees on it. At that time, the ordinance called to essentially replant to meet the minimum 120 inches per acre. Well, when I did that is I built the home that I wanted. Obviously I didn't disturb any trees because there was no trees there. But then when I showed my site plan, to build, we planted trees around basically on the outside, so within the rear yard setback, and then also within the side yard setbacks. So I planted basically in my backyard 17 trees. I thought it was excessive, but it met the requirements. And then it ended up basically creating privacy, but it also ensured that 50 years down the line, I can't build any bigger home. I can't tear down my home right now and build within the side setbacks or the rear yard setbacks. So incentivizing not only just the placement, but doing it by, like, if we've got to have a requirement, we have to have so many inches per the lot, then depending on what kind of trees we plant back, whether we plant oaks or we plant maples, then those kind of have a different emphasis as far as how much. So maybe we don't have to we can plant a 2-inch oak, but a 4-inch red maple, right? So that I kind of would leave up to you guys. But as far as incentivizing, it's like, hey, if we do cut down this tree, then the smart growth that we're kind of talking about is where do we plant these trees on this property or on a city property that would essentially assure that these trees 20 years from now are not going to be cut down again, because it's counterintuitive. So however the inch for inch is done, or if it's per tree, right? If we cut down a pine, I don't think that we should have to replant anything. That's just my personal opinion. But if it is hardwood trees, it's overstory trees, and if it is a specimen tree, I think we should be allowed to cut it down. But then the number of recompense, or the amount of recompense as far as inches to replant for that tree, and then also if there is a penalty for removing or payment for removing that specimen tree, then that's going to basically have the homeowner or the citizen say, I'm going to weigh my options. Do I cut down that tree or try to leave it because it's going to cost me this much and I'm going to have to replant this much to make up for that tree? So at least it pauses the process and lets them think about, just not, instead of nonchalantly cutting down a tree, is to figure out if there is a way that they can kind of recompense for it. And if they can't, that's the decision that because of the private property owner, they're allowed to make. The other thing is too, is I feel like if you look at what's happening now in Brookhaven, lot prices are so expensive. If a homeowner comes in, is they're paying the top dollar right now. Lot prices are record breaking in Brookhaven. And so when we go in, is I would say probably 8 out of 10 homes now that are being built in Brookhaven are not spec homes. They're custom homes for homeowners, because the inventory is so low. We can't go and buy a spec loan because a homeowner is wanting it, or a spec lot, they're wanting to buy it. So these are homeowners that are building these houses. These are citizens that are building these houses now for majority. And so when we say that they don't want the trees, it's not that they don't want trees, but they want to build what they want to build. They have to build what they have to build to make the numbers work as far as the appraisals are concerned. So if it comes between them getting their pool and a tree, they're gonna choose the pool. But I think, like Drew said, and also like you said, Jeff, is there's ways to work with people to try to be smart about it. And that's one thing that we've kind of we've suggested to the city of Atlanta, is to have like a pre-meeting right? So if we get a property under contract or a homeowner gets a property under contract, then Jeff, we can meet with you, or India, we can meet with you. We can look at the trees on the lot, maybe on site, and then you guys can kind of give us an idea like, yeah, you can do this, or no, you're not going to be able to do this based on kind of where this ordinance is going. And then that gives us a better idea up front before we put all this money and due diligence into these lots, then to get our site plans and send everything to you guys. And then you just kind of, at your discretion say no. That's a big deal, because then at least it gives us an upfront idea of what we're needing to work with. And then we can better communicate with homeowners and our citizens of really what they need to kind of incorporate into the design of their home. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about being smart, but it has to be kind of done in a sequence that it's not going to be detrimental economically or financially to Brookhaven and the citizens. So I don't know if I answered your question, Jeff. I kind of went round and around, but
No, yeah, no, I appreciate it, Kim.
All right, well, that was everyone that raised their hand. Were there any other comments or questions or recommendations for the team? Oh, John, you can just unmute yourself.
Am I live now?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Real quickly, when you buy a small lot in Brookhaven, you do not buy the right to build an enormous house on it. You also don't buy the rights to build, if you're at a zoned residential, build a Starbucks or to run a major business. Our lots come with limitations. What we are talking about in large part with in trying to balance trees and development is what limitations should we put on what private homeowners can build on their properties. There are going to be some limits. If you buy a small lot, you cannot necessarily shoehorn a 6,000 square foot house in there because the trees will disappear. That is a limit. Now, do you want to see that as a financial loss to the homeowner or a financial gain to the homeowner because the lot is prettier with all the trees? Well, we can look at it both ways. But yes, any tree ordinance whatsoever is going to limit what one can do with one's property.
Thank you. And so again, I just wanted to check to see if there was any other questions or comments from the public. If not, Jeff, did you have anything else, or India or Linda, to add?
No, I don't have anything else to add. I really do appreciate all the comments though from all the participants. We're just trying to make our ordinance the best that it can be and have this as win-win for everyone as we can. So thank you for your comments.
The other thing I have is, please visit the website if you have ideas to make things better. I mean, we're rewriting it, so we could use that input on, if you have run across things in other cities that have worked, please let us know so we can, look into those and incorporate them into our code. And thank you all for joining us today.
Oh, Jeff, were you saying something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to reiterate, I appreciate everybody who jumped on this meeting and shared their input or just hopped on to listen and participate that way. There'll be, a few more meetings like Patrice said. Feel free to loop back. This is a process where new ideas are coming up every single week and or being refined every single week. We'll be sure to table anything as the process goes that we feel like we need further input on.
Okay, well, like everyone said, we appreciate you all participating today. We do have this same meeting occurring at 6 p.m. this evening. And so we'll look forward to getting additional input from the community at that time. Please watch the website for additional updates. And if you have any questions or comments that you want to send directly to the division, you can reach us at trees@brookhavenga.gov. Have a good afternoon.